Hi, my name is Al Hussein Al Kaf, and I'll be focusing on the flight planning aspects of Virgin Atlantic. Flight planning consists of many different processes and tasks and is a very broad term. I'll list a few just to give an example. Number and types of aircrafts, departure, equipment, staff, rules and safety regulations, catering, and many, many more. However, I'll go into more depth to some of the facts and numbers using the four V's of operation: volume, variety, variation, and visibility. The graph on the right showcases at which level does Virgin Atlantic stand in flight planning. The following slides will showcase why each factor stands where it does. As you can see, in comparison to competitors, in terms of volume, they sit in the middle at the top right on the graph on the screen. And when it comes down to variety, they're falling more on the lower side. However, in variation, it is higher than in variety, getting a bit higher, and then in visibility, due to some external factors, uh, it is quite low. Going to the next slide. Volume and variety. These two factors can correlate many times. The graph on the right from Statista shows the Virgin Atlantic revenue passenger kilometer and how from 2000 to 2019 it's been stable and showing some increases around 2019. The next years aren't showcased as details aren't easy to find due to COVID related issues in the industry. In 2019, the passenger transport volume amounted to over 39 trillion revenue passenger kilometers. This just showcases uh, the the size of the volume generated by Virgin Atlantic. And coming to variety, on the left you have the map. This map of the world showcases all the destinations that Virgin Atlantic flies to. As you can see, they're their main ones which cross the Atlantic Ocean, hence their name, Virgin Atlantic. Variation. Their fleet size is 38 crafts, 37 aircrafts actually, and one to be ready this year. And however, there are only four types of aircrafts from the 38. And they are listed as the Airbus A350. However, there's another Airbus A350 1000, a Boeing 747, Boeing 747 100, Boeing 747 200, and a Boeing 747 400. They have different seat options ranging from economy classic to economy delight, premium, and upper class suite. In terms of visibility, it is difficult for an airlines to communicate all flight planning details to customers, as most of this information is technical and difficult for customers to understand. Many of the information is also irrelevant to the customer until they board the plane. For example, employees' details and position held in the aircraft, catering. However, Virgin Atlantic uses its own app, as you can see on the left, called Virgin Atlantic. Uh, it has services that provide information on many aspects of flight planning, such as schedules, updates on delays, carrier type. This also allows the customer to experience some of the processes crucial to flight operations, such as check in.
Today, I'm going to be looking at the check-in process of Virgin Atlantic through the lens of process choice. The check-in process is an essential part of air travel and is there to make sure the right people are about to board the plane. At all airlines, passengers are required to check in as part of the regulation of the industry. With this in mind, the check-in process must be extremely efficient, be able to handle ultra high volumes of passengers, and be faultless as well as stringent in order to maintain compliance to regulation. Speed, minimal errors, and customer satisfaction are at the root of the checkout process, and more so than ever within luxury long-haul providers, as Virgin Atlantic is. The check-in process is outlined as followed, and I can testify to this through first-hand knowledge. You can also see this illustrated in two illustrations you see. Arrival. You go to the desk and you hand over your passport. From here, there are two process branches depending on whether the passenger has done the initial check-in online. However, they both lead to the same end result. If checked in online, the passenger hands over the passport and pre-printed boarding pass. The clerk will then validate the passport via the passport scanner. The passport scan will connect with the software to associate any bookings on the system. Once validated, your boarding pass is then validated and the passenger may pass to security. If the passenger has not previously checked in online, after the passport validation process, the clerk will print the boarding pass and the passenger may go to security. This line, I suppose, is a product-focused product layout process. This means the process is commonly used in other similar industries and is curated simply to deliver the product, in this case, the completed check-in, in the most efficient and timely way possible. Each step of the process is pre-established and identical for each new passenger. As well as this, each step in the process must be completed in the correct order for the process to be a success. In this way, the check-in process is a line process. As each step is premeditated, there is no process, and each step is premeditated and each case is identical. The clerk simply has to repeat the process continually. Again, characteristic of a line process, the way that the check-in process is configured, including the labor and technology that facilitate it, can only come together to create a single product and cannot be tweaked to produce something else without a complete overhaul of the line process. But what choices have been made and why? Speed and customer satisfaction, as said before, are some of the core and key values of Virgin Atlantic. This can be seen within their process choices and the investment in very specific equipment to facilitate these values. The equipment and software used by Virgin Atlantic is highly specialized and allows seamless information transfer through the entire pre-departure process. As said, this is common of a product layout, line process especially, where the process is very much product focused. Check-in is essential and needs to set the tone for essential pre-departure checks. Another process choice is built around the line process is the amount of kiosks built into the airport terminals. At each airport they operate at, Virgin Atlantic have multiple kiosks running through the exact same check-in process. This allows for higher passenger volumes to be handled without jeopardizing the quality of the process. This diffuses queue times and delights passengers whilst remaining compliant to regulation. And my reflection, could it be more efficient? And how is check-in changing? The main change in the check-in process is in Virgin Atlantic and across many airlines is the emergence of the self check-in, a technology-aided self-service kiosk that sees the need for a clerk wholly disappear. The process described in my first slide does not change, but is completed by the passenger instead of the clerk. The check-in process only now requires limited human oversight. Also, the lack of human interaction also reduces the communication barriers often experienced in international airports, with a computerized system being able to translate to any language. This accelerates the line process, but also makes the system far more rigid without any human element to solve any issues that may arise. This rigidity is reminiscent of a continuous process, and thus I would say with further advancement of this self-serve technology, check-in will become a continuous service with extremely minimal low-skilled labor oversight. As well as this, we are now seeing budget airlines enforcing by fine the need to check in online. Where the absence of online check-in isn't yet penalized by more luxury airlines such as Virgin Atlantic, in order to maintain the utmost customer satisfaction is being more and more heavily encouraged. This is because similarly to the self-serve kiosk, it expedites the check-in process by limiting the amount of human interaction necessary to fulfill the line process. And thus reducing errors and shortening checking times and therefore delighting more customers.
Good evening. Today, I will be talking to you about the journey our luggage takes whenever we go on a flight. To do so, I have decided to explain this using process mapping. As you can see here, we have created a process map which will explain how our luggage travels from check-in to takeoff. As you can see, this process map shows that there's quite a few operations, but very few actual inspections taking place. This is mostly due to how before you can check in your luggage in most airports, you have to go through a number of security checks, and this it mitigates most of the danger of not performing checks beforehand. They also perform one final X-ray scan after you check in your luggage to ensure there is no danger. As you can also see, there's a storage over here, which is mainly when we check in our luggage hours before our flight. It is where all luggage is kept. And when a flight arrives, their tickets are scanned and then they are moved onto a conveyor belt till they are at the outstation where they are collected and taken to the aircraft for takeoff. Over here is a quick analysis on the process map and a small explanation as to why there are so many transports happening. Mainly that luggage needs to travel up to 8 kilometers, depending on which terminal you checked in at and which terminal your flight is. It is also traveling at an average speed of 30 kilometers an hour, while most of our delays are simply due to waiting for the aircrafts to arrive or waiting for the passengers to act. After the entire flight, when the aircraft lands, then the luggage begins to follow this process flow. As you can see, it has quite a few branching paths present within it. The first branch is dependent on whether or not our flight was a connecting flight or if it was a direct flight to our destination. When your luggage receives a sticker during the first process flow, that sticker is meant to indicate where the final destination is. If you are at your final destination, then you would go along this process flow and then move on to this stage where it will be taken to the proper terminal. However, if it is a connecting flight, it shall instead be taken to the next proper aircraft, and then this process flow would be mitigated until the next time the plane has landed. After being taken to the proper terminal, the luggage will then be placed onto the belts, at which point it will enter a delay during which we await for the passengers to collect their luggage. If any luggage remains unclaimed, then they gather it together and attempt to identify their owners. This is the next branching point. If they manage to identify the owners, they will alert them and send it towards them. However, if the owner could not be identified from the luggage, they will store it for claiming and await a lost luggage declaration. They will wait for up to 5 days. If 5 days have passed and nobody comes to claim the luggage or nobody says that they have lost the luggage that matches their description, that luggage will be put on sale. Here's another small analysis of the process map, talking about how most of these branches are due to either the connecting flights or due to mismanagement of the luggage, whether by the airline, the airport, or by the passengers. The process is overall shorter and held by delays rather than operations or transports.
Hi, today my presentation is about 7 ways of lean. The 7 ways of lean is to recognize a product or services provided has minimized waste to the organization. As flight has made much more affordable and accessible worldwide, food catering and in-flight entertainment are more demanding. This has made Virgin Airlines to provide more products and services. But this leads to another problem, waste. As a new product and services is added to flight services, there will be more process that needed to be reassessed, else they might resulted into waste. However, this presentation is going to find out how 7 ways of lean and differentiate between value-added activities is going to help us to recognize waste. In in-flight catering transportation of foods, drinks, and snacks that has not been used or so will be transported back for further use, like to the next flight, warehouse, or even to discount. This transport activity has no value added and is costing more expenses and time. And inventory, we can see here, the additional storage for in-flight shopping items, meals, and beverage come in hefty weights, and this weight can contribute to higher fuel consumption, which is costly to operate and time-consuming to transport back and forth. Fully in motion, we often have to wait for the flight attendant to ask like, what would you like to have? And sometimes it's time consuming, and some other passengers didn't even understand the language or even can't decide what they want at the moment. So the motion by asking passenger one by one is waste of time. And for waiting,
Passengers are waiting to be served when flight attendants is giving meal one by one and flight attendants are waiting to serve. The schedule is time. This time can be reduced as to let passengers that are hungry to be served first. And for overproduction, like the touched and untouched leftover foods, is a huge issue as this further contribute to the inventory, overprocess, and transport in catering. So the process of overproduction should be reduced to the minimum, like offering small meal sizes. Overprocessing, for example, the wastage of a tray of a meal that comes with sides of fruit, spreads, and desserts. Some of these foods left untouched and sealed. This will result in more productivity in time in the kitchen to prep, and it should be only offered by request for the passenger in meal booking. And defects on mistakes, food that did not meet dietary requirements, for example, gluten-free, halal, vegetarian food, will be wasted if the order is made wrong. This is an example of how mistakes can cause waste and as information isn't communicated effectively. And to become a lean organization, it's not that every waste is easy to spot and fix. Although we need to eliminate most of the waste in a business setting to be more productive, save resources, and be time efficient. As an airline, there's a lot of food waste end up in landfill. In some cases, airlines don't necessarily remove all these activities, as these activities can show certain advantage to impact Virgin Airline to gain more customers. For example, travelers are now much more environmentally cautious airline. So the airline uses reusable kitchenware could have attract and consumers and get the money from them. At here, we're looking to reduce the waste measurement and reduction, and the activity right here for value added is we have to look at the scavenging to look for the alternative meals, and because some of the meal that is not enough for the halal foods, and we suggest that we do add allergies profile so it makes sure the guests can book straight away from the app. And the improvements is that we will have the well-informed information requirements to achieve a customer's satisfaction, reduce errors and defects, and non-value added activity like asking the service on one by one. These additional motions that I mentioned before, and so as to have a quicker food distribution for better improvements made. And in business class, like non-necessary value added, necessary non-value added, like garnish food and plating on flight. These cost extra time. So let's serve like the dishes that requires less garnishes. So it'll reduce the unnecessary time. Thank you.
Value stream mapping is an excellent Lean Six Sigma process improvement technique. A value stream map depicts the flow of information from the customer to the supplier, as well as the flow of material from creation to delivery to the client. Analyzing the value stream provides a clear picture of the process cycle time, where it gets stopped, excess inventory, and so on. In the industrial sector, value stream mapping is much clearer, but when it comes to HR, it isn't as simple as we believe, but it is still a fantastic tool for identifying process flaws. Here I'll be showing the recruitment process of Virgin Atlantic through value stream mapping. The time mentioned here is hypothetical to explain the process according to the type of organization. In this, the starting point is the customer. There is HR manager, which sends the information of the headcount electronically to the recruitment manager, which then sends the information electronically to the supplier, which is recruiter or HR, which creates a job requisition. And then there is job posting or advertising the opportunities, receiving application from the candidates, screening, shortlisting based on the eligibility, and then interviews. The offer letter is then sent to successful candidates, and then there is pre-boarding and training period, which is very rigorous in airline companies. Looking at the process, what is clear is that it takes 186 days from the start to finish to search, interview, and onboard a new employee. But recruiters spend actually 91 days of effort, including the training. This can be assumed that more than 50% of the time is spent on non-value added activities. This means the process has a lot of scope for improvement. Some of the improvement points that can be adopted are creating a reference guide for recruiting managers and standardizing initial candidate screening, opening assessment centers to decrease the time spent on screening, shortlisting, and interviewing by using techniques like role plays, ability tests, and presentations, among other things, for early shortlisting, bringing in outside partners and documenting the personal recommendation process, video interviews, and the use of Kanban for offer letters. After analyzing and researching for improvement points, some of the benefits of using value stream mapping with Kaizen, Kanban, etc. are reducing the cost of recruiting an employee, requiring less HR budgetary allocations. It can boost HR managers' productivity and efficiency, reduces the time required from job posting through onboarding and training. Process is much simpler and less complicated.